He hit me in the middle of the Union Hall's coat room on budget night, but he never noticed whose jacket he shoved me into. There was a hidden microphone still recording, a stolen Union seal in the pocket, and $480,000 in missing pension funds that couldn't be explained away. All I had to do was stay standing long enough to pull back the final curtain in front of the entire executive board. My name is Riley Hart, and I've spent the last 3 years avoiding confrontation with the man my mother married when I was 15. Tonight, that streak ended in the grease-stained coat room of Local 418's Union Hall. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across rows of work jackets and hard hats. Dale Mercer cornered me between the metal lockers and a rack of safety vests, his breath thick with whiskey and fried food from the pre-meeting dinner. At 53, he still had the build of a pipefitter, broad shoulders, thick forearms, hands that could bend rebar. As treasurer of the Mechanics Union Local 418, he wielded a different kind of power now. "Just sign the fucking papers, Riley." He thrust the co-signature forms at me again, his knuckles white around the clipboard. "It's a simple refinancing. The warehouse loan needs restructuring, and I need a family member's signature for the board's approval." I'd been working a 12-hour shift at Northwall Systems, debugging compliance protocols until my eyes burned. The last thing I expected was Dale ambushing me at the union meeting I'd only attended because Mom guilted me into showing family support before the budget vote. "I'm not signing anything," I kept my voice steady. Professional, the same tone I used when flagging suspicious transactions at work, especially not at 10 o'clock at night without reading it first. His jaw tightened. "You think you're so smart with your college degree and your fancy tech job, but you're still living in Harbor Falls. Still nobody special. This family gave you everything. This family gave me a mother who looks the other way and a stepfather who thinks he owns me." The words escaped before I could stop them. The slap came fast, not a slap, really, but a backhanded strike that sent me stumbling sideways into the coat rack. My shoulder hit first, then my hip, and I felt my lips split against my teeth. The taste of copper filled my mouth. I grabbed for anything to steady myself, my hands finding purchase on a thick navy jacket. As I pulled myself upright, Dale grabbed my arm, yanking me forward. "You ungrateful little—" He stopped mid-sentence, reaching past me for his own coat, a beaten leather bomber he'd worn since his construction days. In his haste, he knocked several jackets to the floor, including the navy one I'd been clutching. That's when I saw it. The small embroidered patch on the chest colli, Carolina's Office of Labor Integrity. I'd heard whispers about federal investigators sniffing around union finances across the state. Someone from Coley had been here, tonight, and left their jacket behind. Dale was already storming toward the door, the unsigned papers crumpled in his fist. "You'll sign them tomorrow, or I'll make sure your mother knows exactly what kind of daughter she raised." I stayed in that coat room for another 10 minutes, pressing paper towels to my bleeding lip and waiting for my hands to stop shaking. When I finally bent to pick up the fallen jackets, I noticed something else about the collie jacket, a small, dark button on the lapel that didn't match the others. My compliance training kicked in. I'd seen surveillance equipment before. Without thinking, I hung the jacket back on its hook, careful not to disturb that unusual button. If someone from Cola had been here investigating, if that button was what I thought it was, then every word Dale had said, every threat, every admission about needing to restructure warehouse loans, it might all be recorded. I left through the back exit, avoiding the main hall where Dale would be presenting his treasurer's report to the membership. My shoulder throbbed, already stiffening, and I could feel my lips swelling. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel helpless. I had his words. I had that slap, that shove, that violence he'd shown when he thought no one was watching. And somewhere on that navy jacket hanging in a Union Hall coat room, a tiny microphone might have captured it all. The 15-minute drive to Ava's apartment felt like hours. Every pothole sent fresh pain through my shoulder, and I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Dale's truck bearing down on me. But the streets of Harbor Falls were quiet. Just the occasional late-shift worker heading home from the factories. Ava opened her door before I could knock, One look at my face and she pulled me inside, her expression shifting from concern to fury in seconds. That bastard. She didn't need to ask who. We'd been through this dance before, me making excuses, her trying to convince me to take action, but tonight was different. Tonight I was done. Sit. She guided me to her kitchen table, already reaching for the first aid kit she kept under the sink. My sister had cut ties with our family 3 years ago, the day Dale threw a beer bottle at her for questioning union expenses at a family dinner. She'd built a life free from his shadow, a small apartment, a job at the county clerk's office, peace. This needs ice. She pressed a bag of frozen peas against my lip, her hands gentle but her eyes hard. And you need to file a report. Ava. No, she pulled out her phone. No more excuses. No more keeping the peace for Mom's sake. He put his hands on you. That's assault. I wanted to argue, to fall back into old patterns of minimizing, deflecting, protecting Mom from the truth about her husband, but the throbbing in my shoulder and the taste of blood in my mouth made those instincts feel hollow. Okay, the word came out small but certain. Call them. The Harbor Falls Police Department sent Officer Marina Lopez, a woman about our age with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. She took photos of my split lip, the bruising already forming on my shoulder. She asked careful questions, writing down every detail: the time, the location, Dale's exact words, the violence that followed. Were there any witnesses? Officer Lopez asked. The coat room was empty, but I hesitated, then told her about the collie jacket, the hidden button that might be a microphone. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Federal investigators have been around the unions lately, she confirmed. I'll make a note of it. Can you show me exactly where this happened? I gave her the union hall address, described the coat room, even mentioned which hook the jacket had been on. She wrote it all down. What happens now? Ava asked, her arm around my shoulders. We'll file the report. Ms. Hart can pursue a restraining order if she wants. The detective assigned to the case will follow up within 48 hours. Officer Lopez looked at me directly. You did the right thing calling us. Domestic violence often escalates. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? She's staying here, Ava said firmly. After Officer Lopez left, we sat in Ava's living room, the TV on but muted, neither of us really watching. The reality of what I'd just done began to sink in. I'd crossed a line Dale never thought I would. There would be consequences. He's going to lose his mind, I said quietly. Let him. Ava's voice was fierce. You've spent years walking on eggshells, letting him bully you, letting Mom enable him. It stops now. What about Mom? Mom made her choice a long time ago. The pain in Ava's voice was old but still sharp. She chose him over us, over and over again. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dale says you caused a scene at the hall. Come home so we can talk about this like adults. I showed Ava the message. She took my phone and typed back, I'm safe. I'm not coming home tonight. Dale assaulted me and I filed a police report. Ava. No. She hit send before I could stop her. No more protecting her feelings. She doesn't protect you. The phone immediately started ringing. Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail, then turned the phone off entirely. You're doing the right thing, Ava said, squeezing my hand. It hurts now, but this is how it starts. This is how you take your life back. I thought about the collie jacket hanging in that coat room, about federal investigators circling union corruption, about Dale's desperate need for my signature on those refinancing papers. Maybe I was taking back more than just my life. Maybe I was about to uncover exactly what Dale Mercer had been so desperate to hide. Can I borrow your laptop? I asked Ava. I want to look up some public records. Now you're thinking like a survivor, she said, already reaching for her computer. Let's see what your stepfather doesn't want anyone to find. My compliance training at Northwall Systems had taught me that financial crimes always leave a paper trail. At 2 a.m., fueled by coffee and anger, I found Dale's. The Harbor Falls County Clerk's website was clunky but functional. Public records stretched back decades: property transfers, liens, business filings. I started with the Union warehouse Dale had mentioned, the one that supposedly needed refinancing. Local 418 Industrial Storage, LLC. I read aloud to Ava. Filed 6 years ago, Dale Mercer, registered agent. Look at the liens, Ava pointed at the screen. There it was, a notice of default filed 6 weeks ago. The warehouse hadn't just needed refinancing, it had already gone into foreclosure. But according to the union's public meeting minutes, which I pulled up in another tab, Dale had been reporting the property as a stable asset as recently as last month. He's been lying to the membership, I muttered, cross-referencing dates. Then I found something worse, a co-signature form filed with Haven National Bank, dated 3 months ago. My name was on it as co-borrower for a $75,000 loan against the warehouse property. The signature looked like mine. It was mine. Actually, lifted from somewhere else. I recognized it immediately, the same flourish I'd used on my apartment lease 2 years ago, which Mom had co-signed. That son of a bitch, Ava breathed. He forged your signature. I kept digging. More loans surfaced, all with different banks, all using Union properties as collateral. Some had my name. Others had names I recognized from Union meetings: retired workers, members' adult children, people who trusted Dale. At Haven National Bank's website, I found a staff directory. Mason Hargreave, commercial loan manager. I wrote down his direct number. Banks took fraud seriously, especially when federal investigators were already sniffing around. There's more, I said, pulling up the county court records. Look at this. A letter from Midwest Credit Union, dated 4 months ago, addressed to my mother's house. Automobile loan application denial. Insufficient collateral. The applicant Riley Hart. The co-signer Dale Mercer. I never applied for a car loan, I said slowly. My Honda's paid off. But Mom knew, Ava said, piecing it together. The letter went to her house. She had to have seen it. The betrayal cut deeper than Dale's violence. Mom had known he was using my name, my credit, my future, and she'd said nothing, chosen him. I found more evidence in the court filings: mechanics' liens against union members who'd never hired contractors, judgments for debts they'd never incurred. Dale had been running a systematic fraud, using his position as treasurer to access members' personal information, forging signatures, taking out loans that benefited him while destroying other people's credit. Print everything, Ava commanded, already hooking up her printer. Every document, every filing, every record. As pages spilled out, I found the smoking gun in a foreclosure notice. The union itself had taken out a $480,000 loan for pension fund stabilization 8 months ago. 3 signatures on the document: Dale Mercer as treasurer, the union president Thomas Novak, and a third name that made my blood run cold: Riley Hart, recording secretary. I'd never been recording secretary. I'd never been anything but Dale's stepdaughter, who occasionally attended meetings to keep family peace. He's stolen almost $500,000, I said, the number barely comprehensible. And he's used my name to do it. Ava pulled out her phone. We're calling that detective first thing in the morning. This isn't just assault anymore. This is identity theft, wire fraud, embezzlement. I rattled off the charges I'd learned from compliance training. And with federal investigators already looking at union finances, I thought about that Kowalai jacket again, hanging in the coat room with its hidden microphone. Had the investigator been there tonight specifically to watch Dale? Had they heard him trying to force me to sign more fraudulent documents? Riley, Ava's voice was gentle but firm. You know what this means. When this comes out, and it will come out, Mom's going to lose everything. The house is probably leveraged. Their retirement accounts, everything tied to Dale will be frozen. I nodded, feeling something harden inside me. She made her choice. She saw that credit denial letter. She knew what he was doing to me, and she stayed silent. We worked until dawn, organizing evidence, creating a timeline, building a case that would destroy Dale Mercer. But as the sun came up over Harbor Falls, I realized something else. I wasn't just documenting his crimes anymore. I was gathering ammunition. The first sign came at 7 a.m., 4 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dale, and a text from an unknown number. Family means loyalty. Remember that. By noon, the threats had escalated. Ava discovered it when she went to move her car for street cleaning. All 4 tires had been slashed, the cuts deliberate and deep. A note tucked under the windshield wiper read, "Sisters who stand together fall together." "We're calling the police," I said, but Ava was already dialing. Officer Lopez arrived within 20 minutes, took photos, bagged the note. "This is witness intimidation," she said grimly. "Connected to your report last night. We're upgrading this to detective level immediately." While we waited for the detective, my phone buzzed. Mom. "Please answer. Dale's upset. He says you're trying to ruin our family. Whatever you think happened, we can work it out. Don't destroy everything we've built." I showed the message to Officer Lopez. She photographed it. "Save everything, every text, every voicemail. This is all evidence." Detective Ray Morrison arrived an hour later, a tall black man with silver at his temples and eyes that missed nothing. He reviewed everything from the night before, then studied the vandalism to Ava's car. "Ms. Hart, I'm going to be direct with you," he said. "This escalation pattern is concerning. In my experience, it only gets worse. Do you have somewhere else you can stay?" "I'm not leaving my home," Ava said firmly. "Then I'm recommending a protective order for both of you, and I want to know more about those financial documents you mentioned finding." I handed him the stack of printouts. He whistled low as he flipped through them. "This is beyond my jurisdiction, but I have a contact at the FBI's white-collar crime division, with KOLI already investigating the unions." He paused. "You mentioned a jacket with possible surveillance equipment." "In the Union Hall coat room, navy blue with a collie patch." He made a note. "I'll reach out to their field office. In the meantime..." The smell hit us first. Acrid smoke seeping under Ava's apartment door. We rushed outside to find the doormat ablaze, flames licking up toward the doorframe. Ava grabbed the fire extinguisher from the hallway while I called 911. The fire was out before the trucks arrived, but the message was clear. The accelerant pattern the fire investigator showed us indicated gasoline poured in a deliberate pattern. Not enough to burn the building, just enough to terrorize. "Pack a bag," Detective Morrison ordered. "Both of you, I'm taking you to a women's shelter tonight. No arguments." As I threw clothes into a duffel bag, my phone rang. Mason Hargreave from Haven National Bank. "Ms. Hart, I received your voicemail about fraudulent loans in your name. Can you come in today? We're treating this as a critical fraud investigation." "I'm in the middle of a situation. Can we handle this by phone?" "I'm afraid not. But Ms. Hart, if what you're alleging is true, we need to freeze these accounts immediately. Every hour matters." Detective Morrison overheard. "I'll escort you to the bank. This is all connected." At Haven National, Mason Hargreave looked like Central Casting's idea of a banker crisp suit. Careful hair, worried eyes. He spread loan documents across his desk. "Your signatures on these documents are forgeries, traced or lifted from other paperwork." I showed him my real signature on my driver's license, my Northwall Systems ID badge. "I've never signed any loan documents with your bank." He studied them with a magnifying glass, comparing, frowning. "The notary seal on these, it's from the Union Hall. Dale Mercer is listed as the notary." Another piece clicked into place. Of course Dale could forge documents. He had access to the notary seal, probably kept it in his treasurer's office. How many members had signed innocent paperwork over the years, never knowing their signatures would be harvested for fraud? "We're freezing all accounts immediately," Mason declared. "And Ms. Hart, you'll need to file identity theft reports with all 3 credit bureaus. Your credit shows 12 hard inquiries in the last 6 months." 12. Dale had been shopping my identity around like a commodity. Back in Detective Morrison's car, heading to the shelter, I finally listened to Dale's voicemail from that morning. "You stupid little bitch. You think you're smart. You just killed your mother's future. Everything we have is tied up in those properties. When I go down, she goes down. But I know people. Riley, people who handle problems. You got 24 hours to fix this, or you'll wish that split lip was the worst thing that ever happened to you. Detective Morrison pulled over, replayed the message, recorded it on his own device. That's a credible death threat. I'm calling the FBI now. This is beyond local jurisdiction. As he made calls, I stared out the window at Harbor Falls, rushing past the factories, the union halls, the working-class neighborhoods where people trusted men like Dale with their futures. The shelter was a converted Victorian house with reinforced doors and security cameras. As Detective Morrison checked us in, using aliases for our protection, his phone rang. Morrison. Yes, sir. The Coley jacket. Understood. He hung up, turned to us. Federal agents recovered the jacket. The device was active. They have Dale Mercer on tape discussing falsified union books, threatening you, and admitting to what he called creative financing. They're moving tonight. But Dale was moving too. As we settled into our shelter room, Ava's phone, which she'd forgotten to silence, exploded with notifications. Photos of us entering the bank, our license plates, a message, found you, shelter won't help. Union brothers stick together. Someone at the bank, the police station, or even the Union Hall had told Dale our every move. In Harbor Falls, his reach extended everywhere. Turn off the phone, the shelter coordinator ordered. No location services, no social media. You're under our protection now. As night fell, I lay on a narrow bed in a strange room, listening to Ava's breathing and the sounds of other women moving through the shelter. Tomorrow, federal agents would move against Dale. Tonight, we were just two more women hiding from violent men, hoping thin walls and locked doors would be enough. But I wasn't just hiding anymore. I was waiting. Let Dale think he'd won, that he'd driven us to ground. Tomorrow, when the FBI came knocking, when his house of forged cards collapsed, he'd learn the truth. The jacket he'd shoved me into had been recording everything, and I was done being afraid. The shelter's breakfast was powdered eggs and burnt toast, but I forced it down. Detective Morrison had called. He was escorting us back to the Union Hall to retrieve personal items left behind. More importantly, I needed to see that jacket again. Federal agents have already collected it as evidence, Morrison explained as we drove. But Agent Vale from Coley wants to meet you there. Seems you've helped crack a case they've been building for months. The Union Hall looked different in daylight, shabby, tired, like the corruption inside had leaked through the walls. Yellow tape blocked the treasurer's office. Federal agents moved through the building, boxing files. Agent Ethan Vale looked younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of purposeful energy that suggested he'd been chasing white-collar criminals his whole career. He met us in the coat room, now empty except for a few forgotten hard hats. Ms. Hart, I understand you had an encounter with my jacket. He smiled slightly. Lucky for us. You hung it back up. The device captured everything: your stepfather's threats, the admission about falsifying books, and about 20 minutes of him ranting to the union president after you left. 20 minutes. Oh, yes. Apparently, Mr. Mercer felt very comfortable discussing his creative solutions to the pension fund shortfall. He mentioned hiding money in phantom vendor accounts, using member identities for loans, even skimming from the death benefit fund. My stomach turned. The death benefit fund helped families bury their loved ones. How much has he stolen? Between the loans, the skimming, and the pension fraud, we're looking at close to $800,000 over 3 years. Your name appears on about $200,000 worth of fraudulent documents. Vile produced an evidence bag containing the navy jacket. Through the plastic, I could see the KOLI patch, the hidden button that had been recording, but something else caught my eye. The inside pocket bulged slightly. What's that? Vale gloved up, opened the bag carefully. From the inner pocket, he withdrew another evidence bag, this one containing what looked like a rubber stamp. The missing Local 418 seal, he confirmed. Reported stolen 6 months ago. According to union minutes. We found it in my jacket pocket. along with fibers that match the accelerant-soaked material used in the arson attempt on your sister's apartment. The pieces clicked. Dale must have grabbed it when he reached for his coat. He knocked everything around, probably didn't realize he'd dropped it. His fingerprints are all over it, fresh ones, from that night. Vale's expression was satisfied. Combined with the audio, the financial evidence you uncovered, and the threats he's made since Mr. Mercer is looking at 20 years federal time. Morrison's phone buzzed. He answered, his face darkening. When? Stay with her. We're on our way. He hung up. Your mother's at Harbor Falls General. Apparent overdose. She's stable, but... No. The word came out flat. I knew what this was. Mom's final manipulation. Her last card to play. Make herself the victim. Make me the villain who drove her to it. But Ava grabbed my hand. We should go. At the hospital. Mom looked small in the bed. IVs running into her arms. She'd taken just enough pills to need medical attention. Not enough to die. The timing right when Dale's arrest was imminent wasn't coincidence. Riley, her voice was weak but her eyes were sharp. Look what you've done to our family. What I've done. The rage surprised me with its heat. Dale stole my identity. He's stolen hundreds of thousands from union families. He hit me. You provoked him. You always provoke him. Even now, even here, she chose him. If you'd just signed the papers, none of this would have happened. I pulled the loan denial letter from my bag, the one sent to her house, proving she knew. You saw this 4 months ago. You knew he was using my name. Her face crumpled, but not with guilt, with self-pity. What was I supposed to do? He said it was just temporary, just until the union finances recovered. He's my husband. And I'm your daughter. A daughter who's destroying everything. Tears now. Perfectly timed. When Dale goes to prison, I'll lose the house, the cars, everything. Ava stepped forward. Everything built on fraud, on stolen money from working families who trusted him. Get out. Mom's tears dried instantly. Both of you. I have no daughters. We left, in the hallway. Agent Vale was waiting with Detective Morrison and 2 other federal agents. Dale Mercer was arrested an hour ago, Vale said quietly. He's being charged with wire fraud, identity theft, embezzlement, and racketeering. We also have him on witness intimidation and conspiracy to commit arson. What about my mother? Morrison answered. She's been served with a subpoena. What she knew and when she knew it will come out in court. But Ms. Hart, he paused. You should know Dale tried to implicate you as a willing participant. Said you'd been helping him all along. I almost laughed. Of course he did. Vale produced a document, which is why we need you to come to the federal building. Give a formal statement, your work history at Northwall, your compliance training, it's actually helpful. Shows you'd never have participated in financial fraud. As we walked through the hospital parking lot, I saw them a cluster of union guys by their trucks, watching. One spit on the ground as we passed. Word was already out. In their eyes, I wasn't a victim. I was the woman who'd brought down their treasurer, threatened their pensions, their union. They don't know yet, Vale said, following my gaze, that Dale was stealing from them, that their pensions were already gone, but they will. Back at the shelter that night, Ava and I sat in our small room, processing the day. Dale was in federal custody. Mom had chosen her side for the last time. The union would audit its books and find disaster. My credit was destroyed. My family gone. My reputation in Harbor Falls ruined. But I was free. What now? Ava asked. I thought about the Coali jacket, about Agent Vale's card in my pocket with a note about their need for financial compliance specialists, about cities beyond Harbor Falls where nobody knew my name. Now we rebuild, I said. Far from here. Tomorrow, I'd give my statement. Next week, I'd testify to a grand jury. But tonight, for the first time in years, I slept without fear of the morning. The emergency board meeting of Local 418 was scheduled for Friday night, 3 days after Dale's arrest, 2 days after the FBI had frozen the union's accounts. I shouldn't have been there, but Agent Vale had asked me to come, and Detective Morrison insisted on escorting me. "We need you present when the evidence is disclosed," Vale had explained. "Your testimony about that night, combined with what we found, will help the membership understand the full scope of Dale's crimes." The Union Hall buzzed with angry energy. 300 members packed the main room: pipe fitters, mechanics, welders who'd trusted their futures to Local 418's pension fund. At the executive table, President Thomas Novak looked haggard, flanked by the remaining board members and a team of lawyers. I sat in the back with Vale, Morrison, and my newly hired attorney, Sandra Reyes. Ava was beside me, her presence the only thing keeping me steady as hostile glares followed our entrance. "Brothers and sisters," Novak began, his voice cracking, "we're here to address the situation with our former treasurer, Dale Mercer." "Former?" someone shouted. "He's been stealing from us." "Let the man speak," another yelled. Novak raised his hands. "Agent Vale from the Carolinas Office of Labor Integrity will present their findings." Vale moved to the podium with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. He clicked a remote, and Dale's booking photo appeared on the screen behind him. "Dale Mercer has been charged with embezzling approximately $800,000 from Local 418 over 3 years. He used forged signatures, created phantom vendors, and took out fraudulent loans against union property." The room erupted. Vale waited for quiet. "The scheme was discovered thanks to Ms. Riley Hart, who Mr. Mercer assaulted when she refused to sign fraudulent loan documents. Her refusal, and the evidence she helped uncover, has made it possible to recover some of your stolen funds." "She's his daughter," someone yelled. "She probably helped him." That's when Sandra stood. "My client was a victim of identity theft. Mr. Mercer forged her signature on over $200,000 in fraudulent loans. She has cooperated fully with federal investigators." "Bullshit." A man I recognized, Pete Kowalski, a welder from Mom's neighborhood, stood up. "That whole family is crooked." Vale clicked his remote again. Suddenly, Dale's voice filled the hall, the recording from the jacket microphone. Clear as day. His threats, his admission about creative financing, his violence against me. The room went silent. "There's more," Vale continued. "We've identified 16 union members whose identities were stolen for fraudulent loans, 14 retirees whose death benefits were skimmed. Every member in this room has been robbed." That's when she stood, Janice Romero, assistant treasurer, a small woman in her 60s who'd worked alongside Dale for 5 years. I hadn't expected to see her. "I have something to say." Her voice shook but carried. "I've spent the last 2 days going through our books with the FBI. The pension fund—" She stopped, swallowed. "It's gone. Dale moved it all to offshore accounts. $3 million of retirement money." The explosion of rage was immediate. Men who'd worked their whole lives, counting on that pension, realizing it had vanished. Some cursed, others just sat, stunned. "But I kept copies," Janice continued, pulling out a thick folder. "Shadow books, every transaction Dale made. I documented. I was scared to come forward before, but when I heard what he did to Riley..." She looked at me. I couldn't stay silent anymore. She handed the folder to Vale, then turned back to the membership. "Dale threatened me too. Said he'd ruin my husband's disability claim if I talked. But Riley stood up to him. A young woman had more courage than I did." "We need those pensions," someone shouted. Novak spoke up. "The Federal Asset Recovery Team believes they can trace 60% of the stolen funds. The International Brotherhood has agreed to emergency assistance for the rest. But it will take time." "What about her?" Pete Kowalski pointed at me. "What about that family?" That's when Mom walked in. She looked terrible pale, thin, clearly discharged from the hospital against medical advice, but she'd dressed carefully, playing the suffering wife. "My daughter destroyed our family," she announced to the room. "Turned the government against her own stepfather, and for what money revenge?" "Mrs. Mercer," Vale interrupted, "you're under subpoena. You shouldn't be here. But she kept going, appealing to the crowd she'd known for years. Dale made mistakes, yes, but he was trying to save your pension fund, not steal it. The investments went bad. He was protecting you from the truth. By stealing our identities, that was Hank Morrison, whose name I'd found on 3 fraudulent loans, by using my credit to cover his gambling debts. Mom's face went white. She hadn't known we knew about the gambling. Sandra stood again. Mrs. Mercer received written notice of her husband's identity theft 4 months ago and failed to report it. She's been named as a co-conspirator in the federal case. The room turned on Mom then, their anger shifting from me to her. She'd known. She'd let Dale rob them. "Get out," Novak said quietly. "You're not welcome here." Mom looked at me one last time. Her face twisted with a hatred that took my breath away. Then she left. Her exit followed by jeers and curses from men and women she'd called friends. Vale returned to the podium. Local 418 will be under federal monitoring for the next 2 years. All financial decisions will require oversight. Any member who suffered identity theft will receive free credit monitoring and legal assistance. "What about criminal charges for anyone else?" someone asked. "The investigation is ongoing. We believe Mr. Mercer acted largely alone, though several others may face charges for lesser roles." As the meeting continued, discussing emergency measures and new leadership, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Janice Romero stood there, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I've been keeping those shadow books for 2 years, too scared to act. You gave me courage." Others approached slowly, warily, not friendly exactly, but no longer hostile. They'd heard Dale's voice on that recording. They knew I'd been telling the truth. As we finally left the hall, escorted by Morrison for safety, Vale pulled me aside. "That job offer stands," he said quietly. "TOLI needs people who understand financial compliance and aren't afraid to stand up to corruption. Think about it." Outside. Harbor Falls looked the same industrial skyline, working-class streets, the bones of a city built on union labor. But everything had changed. The man who'd terrorized me was in federal custody. The mother who'd enabled him had shown her true face. The community I'd grown up in finally knew the truth. "You did it," Ava said as we walked to Morrison's car. "You brought him down." "We did it," I corrected. "All of us who spoke up." But I knew the hardest part was still coming. Testifying at trial, facing Dale in court, rebuilding my credit, my life, my sense of safety. The union members would get some of their money back, but trust that was harder to restore. Still, as we drove away from Local 418, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years' hope. Dale Mercer had shoved me into that jacket thinking he was demonstrating his power. Instead, he'd pushed me into the evidence that would destroy him. Sometimes justice comes from the strangest places. Sometimes it's hiding in the pocket of a forgotten coat, waiting for someone brave enough to bring it to light. The federal courthouse in Detroit stood like a fortress of glass and steel, a 2-hour drive from Harbor Falls, but a world away from union halls and factory floors. 6 weeks had passed since the emergency board meeting. 6 weeks of depositions, evidence reviews, and death threats that arrived like clockwork despite my new unlisted number. Today was the day Dale Mercer would learn his fate. "Ready?" Sandra Reyes asked, as we climbed the courthouse steps. I'd traded my factory town clothes for a simple navy suit professional, credible, nothing like the scared woman Dale had shoved around that coat room. "Ready." The courtroom was packed. Union members filled the gallery, some supporting Dale, believing his lies about trying to save their pensions, others there to watch him fall. Mom sat in the front row behind the defense table, her face a mask of martyrdom. She'd lost weight, playing the abandoned wife to perfection. Dale looked smaller in his orange jumpsuit, shackled at wrists and ankles, but when he saw me, his eyes blazed with the same rage I'd known all my life. "The United States versus Dale Anthony Mercer," the clerk announced. "Case number 2024 CR 1847. The federal prosecutor, William Chen." No, wait. His name was William Chan stood. "Your Honor, we call Riley Hart." I walked to the witness stand, my heels clicking on marble, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. Then I sat and faced the man who'd terrorized me for over a decade. "Ms. Hart," Chan began, "please tell the court about the night of September 15th at Local 418. So I did. Every detail. The forced overtime that kept me late. Dale cornering me in the coat room. The co-signature forms. The violence when I refused. He backhanded me, I said, my voice steady. I fell into the coat rack. That's when I grabbed the Coley jacket to steady myself. The jacket containing the recording device. Yes, Agent Vale's jacket. Dale didn't know it was there." Chan played the recording. Dale's voice filled the courtroom slurred with whiskey, sharp with violence, the threats, the sound of impact. His rant afterward to Novak about needing to handle me like he'd handled others who asked questions. Several jury members flinched. "Ms. Hart, what happened after you discovered the fraudulent loans in your name?" I detailed the investigation, the forged signatures traced from other documents, the $200,000 in debt I never incurred, the systematic theft of union members' identities. Dale's attorney, Marcus Webb, tried to paint me as a disgruntled stepdaughter seeking revenge, but every question bounced off the evidence bank records, forged documents, the recorded confession. "Isn't it true you've always resented Mr. Mercer?" Webb pressed. "I resented being hit," I replied. "I resented having my identity stolen. I resented watching him steal from families who trusted him. You could have signed those papers and avoided all this. I could have become an accomplice to fraud. I chose not to." Then came the moment I dreaded. Webb introduced Mom as a character witness. She took the stand in a black dress, clutching tissues, told the court how Dale had been a loving husband, a provider, a man trying to save the union in difficult times, how I'd always been difficult, jealous of their happiness, eager to destroy what I couldn't have. "Riley broke our family," she said, fake tears streaming. She could have helped Dale fix things quietly. Instead, she chose destruction. Chan's cross-examination was surgical. "Mrs. Mercer, are you aware your husband took out fraudulent loans in your daughter's name?" "He was trying to save the pension fund." "Yes or no? Were you aware?" Mom's mask slipped. I saw one letter." This letter, Chan produced the credit denial from 4 months ago, addressed to your home regarding a car loan your daughter never applied for. I didn't understand. You didn't understand that your husband was committing identity theft against your own daughter. Mom's tears dried instantly, replaced by the cold rage I knew too well. She should have been grateful. Dale gave her a roof, food, stability. She owed him. Gasps from the gallery. Even Dale's supporters looked uncomfortable. "No further questions," Chan said. The prosecution's final witness made everything real. Special Agent Jennifer Park from Financial Crimes laid out the full scope $1.3 million stolen over 4 years, 28 victims of identity theft, pension funds diverted to offshore accounts in the Caymans. Without Ms. Hart's courage in coming forward, Park testified, this scheme would have continued until Local 418 collapsed entirely. Dale exploded then, jumping up despite his shackles. "She set me up. That bitch was working with the feds all along. This is entrapment." The judge gavelled him down. But the damage was done. The jury saw the real Dale Mercer violent, unhinged, entitled to everyone else's money and lives. Closing arguments were brief. The evidence was overwhelming. We waited 3 hours for the verdict. I sat with Ava and Vale in a small conference room, drinking bitter courthouse coffee and trying not to think about all the ways this could still go wrong. Then the call came. The jury was back. On count 1, wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On count 2, identity theft, we find the defendant guilty. On count 3, embezzlement from an employee pension fund, guilty. Guilty on all 18 counts. Dale's scream of rage echoed through the courtroom. Mom collapsed in theatrical sobs, but I just sat there, feeling something I hadn't expected, not joy, not vindication, just empty. until the judge spoke. Mr. Mercer, you held a position of trust. Union members depended on you to safeguard their futures. Instead, you enriched yourself at their expense. You stole from retirees, from families, from your own stepdaughter. When she tried to stop you, you assaulted her. He paused, looking directly at Dale. I sentence you to 22 years in federal prison. You will pay full restitution to your victims. You are permanently barred from holding any fiduciary position. 22 years. Dale would be 75 when he got out, if he lived that long. As marshals led him away, Dale turned to me one last time, but whatever he wanted to say died in his throat. He looked broken, finally understanding that his power was gone. Mom rushed past me on her way out, hissing, I hope you're satisfied. I was outside the courthouse. Union members who'd attended the trial surrounded me, not with anger now, but with something approaching respect. Thank you, Pete Kowalski said simply. We got some of our pension back because of you. Janice Romero hugged me. You did what I couldn't. You saved us all. Vale approached as the crowd dispersed. That job offer still stands. COLI needs investigators who understand financial crimes from the inside. I looked at Ava, who smiled. Take it. Time to leave Harbor Falls behind. As we drove away from the courthouse, I thought about the jacket hanging in that Union Hall coat room. Such a small thing, a forgotten coat, a hidden microphone, a moment of violence that changed everything. Dale had shoved me into that jacket thinking he was demonstrating his power. Instead, he'd pushed me into my future, one where I helped catch men like him, one where I never had to be afraid again. Justice doesn't always come from where you expect. Sometimes it's hanging right there in front of you, waiting for someone angry enough, brave enough, or just desperate enough to reach for it. I reached for it, and I brought Dale Mercer down. The letter from my attorney arrived 3 months after Dale's sentencing. I was living in Arlington now, working for COLI as a financial compliance investigator, sharing a townhouse with Ava, who'd transferred to a federal job in D.C. We'd left Harbor Falls and its ghosts behind. Riley, Sandra Reyes's letter began. I'm pleased to inform you that the civil settlement has been finalized. The numbers made me sit down. Dale's assets, the house, the cars, the hidden accounts had been liquidated. After the union recovered its stolen funds, after the other identity theft victims were compensated, there was still $127,000 in damages awarded to me specifically for the assault and systematic fraud. But it was the second page that mattered more. Additionally, all fraudulent debts in your name have been expunged. Your credit report has been corrected. The 3 credit bureaus have agreed to flag your file for enhanced protection against future identity theft. You are legally and financially free of any obligations Dale Mercer created in your name. I was 29 years old and finally truly free. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but through the peephole I saw a woman in her 60s, Janice Romero, the former assistant treasurer who'd helped expose Dale's crimes. Janice, I opened the door. How did you find me? Agent Vale gave me your address. I hope that's okay. She held out a small box. I wanted to give you this in person. Inside the box was a union pin, local 418 solid gold, the kind they gave for 25 years of service. This was my husband's, Janice explained. He died 2 years before Dale started stealing. Miguel would have been proud of what you did. The membership voted you're an honorary lifetime member of Local 418. It's never been done before, but then again, no one ever saved our pensions before. I turned the pin over in my hands, feeling its weight. I'm not sure I earned this. You earned it the night you refused to sign those papers. The night you chose truth over family pressure. Janice smiled. The new treasurer wants you to know if you ever need anything. The union remembers its friends. After she left, I sat at my desk to write my weekly report. Part of my job at COLI involved tracking patterns in union fraud cases. This week alone, I'd identified 3 treasurers in different states showing Dale's early warning signs, mysterious refinancing, requests for co-signatures, small discrepancies that would balloon into major theft. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. My hand tensed even now. Random messages made my heart race, but when I opened it, I smiled. Ms. Hart, this is Pete Kowalski from Local 418. My daughter is studying accounting at Michigan State. I told her your story. She wants to specialize in fraud prevention now. Thank you for showing her that one person can make a difference. I typed back, tell her to call me if she ever needs guidance. The best fraud investigators are the ones who understand what it's like to be a victim. That evening, Ava and I had dinner at our small dining table. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. But it was ours in a home where no one screamed or threatened or stole. Any word from Mom? Ava asked carefully. No. I'd heard through Sandra that Mom was living with her sister in Ohio, working as a cashier, telling anyone who'd listen that her daughters had abandoned her. She sent a letter. I didn't open it. We ate in comfortable silence. Some bridges, once burned, were better left as ash. My Coley badge sat on the counter where I dropped it after work. Special Investigator Riley Hart. In 6 months, I'd helped recover over $3 million in stolen union funds across 4 states. My supervisor said I had an instinct for spotting the patterns, probably because I'd lived them. I'm proud of you, Ava said suddenly. I know I say it a lot, but you took the worst thing that ever happened to us and turned it into something that helps others. We both did. You stood by me when no one else would. That's what real family does. My last task of the evening was reviewing a new case file. A union in Pennsylvania. Troubling financial patterns. A treasurer requesting family co-signatures on loans. I made notes, scheduled a site visit, began building the investigation that might save another group of workers from losing everything. As I worked, I touched the Local 418 pin Janice had given me. It sat next to my Coley badge, now 2 symbols of the strange path my life had taken, from victim to investigator, from silenced to speaker of truth. Dale Mercer was serving year 1 of 22 in federal prison. He'd lost his power, his stolen wealth, his freedom. He'd destroyed his own life trying to destroy mine. But I'd learned something that night in the Union Hall coat room, something more valuable than any settlement check. Sometimes the evidence that will save you is hanging right in front of you. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to reach for it. And sometimes, when you stand up to one bully, you light a path for others to follow. My phone rang. Another union worker in another state, calling Coley's tip line with suspicions about their treasurer. I picked up, ready to listen, ready to help. This is Special Investigator Hart. Tell me what's happening, and let's see how we can help you. The cycle of theft and discovery would continue. But now, the thieves had someone hunting them who understood their tricks, who'd survived their worst, who'd refused to sign their papers. And I would never stop hunting. Thank you so much for listening to Riley's story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below, so we can connect and discuss what this story meant to you. If this tale of courage and justice resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And if you really want to help more people discover stories like this one, hit the hype button to boost this video. Your support helps these important stories reach those who need to hear them most.